Hi guys, and welcome to my review for the SOUNDRHYME DTE900. This is the latest from SOUNDRHYME. This time around we have a tribrid, a 1+4+4, so 1 DD with 4 BAs and 4 ESTs, and to a certain extent you can effectively say this is a DTE500 with double the BAs and double the ESTs, although that's where the similarities or the similar gene pool end. As for the box, typical SOUNDRHYME presentation. Take this out, and then inside we have it brings two cases, the one that's on top there and this one here. This case is actually the case that supports or brings the IEMs inside. All right, so nicely protected. There's no chance this is going to get damaged in any way. All right, and then in the second case over here, that's where it brings the IEM itself, the tips and the cable. It's not the tips are fine. I'm actually using the stock tips, as you can see. The cable, it's fine, but I mean, for an IEM of this price, which we're talking $749, you know, a little bit an upgraded cable would have been a nice thing. But look, it is what it is. It's not a bad cable. It's fine. I'm just saying that it could have been a slightly superior cable. As for the IEMs themselves, I actually regret not having waited a little bit longer and getting the customized shell design on them. This is the stock shell. It's a nice semi-transparent shell in like a dark blackish purple color. Switches, as you can see there, and then as well the motif in the faceplate is again a purplish starry kind of vibe. The cable, as you can see, is not the stock cable. I'm using a Jazeer 41T cable. I just like the way the cable functions. It measures nicely, and that's why I use this cable quite often. Anyway, fit is perfect. I'm using the medium-sized green tip, so this allows for a nice deep insertion. That's one of the first things that I would recommend you make sure that you are able to do with it, is a nice deep insertion. Considering the number of drivers that are present in each shell, it's actually not a very big IEM. It's basically the same size as the Pennon 10th anniversary, same size as the Pennon Volt, so it's actually not an excessively big shell. Very nice quality in terms of its build. Really top quality resin. You can see that no expense was spared with regards to that department. The nozzle, as I said, has got a nice long length, and coupled with the medium-sized tip like I have here, it really does confer a nice deep insertion, which for me at least helps control and do away with some of the peaks that you get in the frequency range, especially in the upper mids and treble. That's basically it in terms of the appearance of the IEM, isolation. It's spot on. There's really nothing that can be said or brought as a fault. On to the sound, which is what we want to know. Okay, you guys know that I like making major, huge comparisons. I've just basically brought out two IEMs. One is the Pennon Volt, priced at $799, so a very similar price, and the other one is the Pennon the 10th anniversary, also a tribrid, priced at around $500, $499, if memory serves me right. And the reason why I've just brought out these two is to see the complete antithesis with regards to sound to this in the Volt, and to see something that in certain settings of the SOUNDRHYME we get a very similar sound to the DTE500, to the 10th anniversary, and that was exactly the first sensation when I got the DTE 900, and I listened. I let it. I had a quick listen initially, but nothing significant, and then I let it burn in for a couple of hours. And then when I first listened to it properly, the first IEM that automatically, almost immediately came to mind was I've heard this. I've heard something that sounds similar to this, and I was obviously thinking about the 10th anniversary, and it is. With the settings in the 1-1 position, the sound that you get is very, very similar to the 10th anniversary. And what does that mean? It means that it's got a nice thick bass when you look at it graphically, you think, okay, this is going to be an absolute mess. It's going to bleed into the mids tremendously. It's going to do away with all of the clarity. It's going to do, make things muddy and overly warm and overly thick, and there's going to be no dynamics, no speed, no nothing. And no, the quality of the driver that they used here in the DD for the DD is unquestionable, and the proof of that is that when you do listen to the bass, although it's been tuned in a thickish manner, it has very much got the non-ISN style, which is it's thick, yes, but it's got loads of really solid thump. It hits, it slams hard, starts and stops like almost BA like, let's put it that way. It's got a lot of authority, and great tonality, great timbre, and then as it transitions into the mids, the little amount of bleed that there is, I'm not, graphically is one thing, but the little amount of bleed that there is when you listen to it is actually adding to give the whole presentation a very fun, a very engaging, very dynamic feel. With regards to the settings of the switches, I basically tried and did most of the listening in the 0-0 position, where the mids, upper mids and treble are more emphasized, more energetic, and then in the 1-1 position where that same mids, upper mids and treble are slightly subdued. Both of the settings had their pluses and their minuses, and then not content with still the performance that I was getting, I decided to try a Venture Electronics 25 ohm impedance adapter, and boy oh boy, let me tell you what this thing worked absolute magic, and I'll explain now. Okay, if you listen to this at, let's say, normal volume levels, you'll probably not run into the risk of it's too much, it's going to be overpowering, or no, it will more or less satisfy, I would say, the majority of people. And with the 0-0 position where the mids, upper mids and treble are emphasized, yes, you do have a certain amount of forwardness in the vocals. You do notice the instruments are a little bit overemphasized, but it's fine. The problem is the moment I started cranking the volume, and at least for my ears, it started really emphasizing certain parts of the spectrum, and it started hurting me. That's the reality. It actually started hurting me, and I wasn't a happy camper. I then tried the 1-1 position, and automatically that was resolved. In the 1-1 position, the lowering that you have of that energy across the whole mids and highs is sufficient to make it just come across in a completely different manner. It's got all the, it basically follows the other curve, but it's that drop in energy, it just confers it a whole completely different dynamics. Male and female vocals are still equally detailed, still equally there, a little bit forward, like I said, but nothing offensive. Instruments are now much more realistic, especially pianos, and certain passages of guitar are unquestionably more pleasurable. You listen to, for example, Arancio Bossa, Andrea Bucce Razzuti. It's a song that has it's got a very specific cadence, and that slam that you hear, if I am hearing it in the 0-0 setting where everything is more energetic, and I start cranking up the volume, and that guitar and that slam that's accompanying the guitar can get a little bit too intense. It can be overly intense, actually. With the 1-1 setting, no, it's fine. I can crank up the volume to stupid levels, let's put it that way, and everything maintains a nice composure, and it's actually a pleasure to listen aloud. And that's the one thing that the DTE900 does very well. Very much like those of you that have seen my reviews on the Our Audio Neon Pro, where the one thing that comes to mind about the Neon Pro is its ability to play loud and clean. And that's exactly the same thing that I would apply to the DTE900. The DTE900 has the ability of playing loud and clean. In my particular case, that volume level that it can reach gets a little bit aggressive, and that's why I prefer the 1-1 setting, where I can really crank it, and it's an absolute pleasure to listen to. Seriously, it's got very much the still the characteristics that you want or associate with BAs and ESTs. So the cleanliness, the quickness of the response in terms of everything that they are doing, but coupled with that nice dynamic bass coming from behind, it's honestly, it's a really nice IEM to listen to. But you know, like as I said earlier, in that search to continuously find better and more improvement, I then tried the 25 ohm impedance adapter from Venture Electronics. And with this impedance adapter, 25 ohms, in the 1-1 setting, you have a further reduction of the energy level. Is it ideal or not? It's something which I will leave to the discretion of whoever does have the DTE900 and does want to try the adapter. It's one thing that you will definitely understand in that setup is that, so 1-1 switches in the 1-1 position, 25 ohm impedance, is that this thing the last thing it will be is fatiguing. Okay. However, with the impedance adapter, I found that the best result was going back to the 0-0 setting, which is the more energetic. Okay. But the impedance adapter drops it to a level which is almost equivalent to the 1-1 setting. Slight variations lower and higher across that frequency range of the mids, upper mids, and treble. But overall, the result that comes out, in my opinion, with my music, with what I was hearing, with my unit, it's a more pleasurable reproduction having that in the 0-0 position with the impedance adapter than having it in the 1-1 position. Although graphically they look very similar, the impedance adapter gives a little smidge more of bass, and it's just the combination, it's just the balance that's obtained is more satisfying, or at least was more satisfying for me. In terms of its technicalities, soundstage, it's big. It's especially if you use it without the impedance adapter and the 0-0 setting, it's really big. Is it a little bit fake, if that's the correct word? Yes, I found it to be a little bit fake. It's not a soundstage which has that huge size, but is on the same level of, for example, the Panon, the Volt. The Volt has a huge stage, but it's realistic. You can see that it's not been pushed or forced. Over here in the 0-0 setting, without the impedance adapter, the feeling that you get is that soundstage is huge. It's great. It's fantastic, but it's a little bit emphasized, a little bit kind of fake, you know. And it's not the best word to be using, but that's the feeling that I get. Imaging, it's perfect. I mean, especially in the 0-0 setting. Although in the setting that I used, which was 0-0 with the impedance adapter, it didn't lose anything. Actually, it even, in my opinion, cleared up things a little bit more by not being as overly emphasized, let's put it that way, and that actually helped clear and help position things slightly better. The impedance adapter also helps with the very minute amount of BA timbre to be controlled, and again so that timbre associated with EST is also very controlled. I mean, for me it was negligible, while in the 0-0 setting without the impedance adapter I occasionally could feel a little bit of BA timbre. Detail retrieval is fantastic. In any one of the settings, it's always very, very good. Be it the 0-0 setting without the adapter, or 1-1 setting without adapter, or 0-0 setting with adapter, detail retrieval is always spot on. There's nothing to be said there. Resolution as well, always perfect. Perhaps the 0-0 setting without the adapter is slightly better. But I mean, it's really a give and take across the board when it comes to the technicalities. And I guess that basically covers the overall sound of the DTE900. I mean, there are songs that I thoroughly enjoyed listening to in the DTE900. Like I said, Arancio Bossa, Andreas Razzuti, What You Gonna Do from Frank McComb, Sea Smooth by George Benson. I mean, Is This Love? Fantastically well done. I mean, really, you get all. It's really nice. It's difficult for me to sometimes explain certain things, but really nice. Here But I'm Gone from Vanessa Fernandez, fantastic as well. Really, really nice. This impedance adapter in the 0-0 setting on the DT900 is magical. Trust me when I say that it's magical. Okay, so you may ask, so what about the Volt and what about the 10th anniversary? Well, the Volt is the complete opposite in the sense that you look at the graph and the graph couldn't be more different. Okay, however, when you put the Volt in your ears and you start listening to it and you start being seduced by its magic, you understand that although yes, it doesn't have the bass that the DT900 has, and maybe it's not as energetically ultimately in the mids, upper mids and treble as the DT900, it's got its magic, it's got its mojo, and it's for a reason that I consider it to be one of the best IEMs that I've heard, and it is a fantastic IEM. Personally, I think the DT900 is an excellent example of what can be obtained and what can be achieved when you really put your mind to it and really want to design a proper IEM. So this here is not really a question of a winner or a loser. It's a question of being a complete opposite. Obviously, the advantage that the DT900 carries over the Volt is the fact that it's got the switches, and having the switches and allowing for different setups to be generated is pretty impressive. I mean, if we have to consider that we have the 00 setting in the 1-1 setting, so we've got two settings, two different sounds there, and then we have each one of those settings with the impedance adapter. So we've basically got 4 signatures, which make it a way more versatile IEM. I don't mention the 1-0 and the 0-1 because the differences there are absolutely minor to the 0-0 setting or the 1-1 setting. So you got there, let's say, 4 solid settings, which will give you a lot of versatility in terms of music genres that you want to listen to. So it's at basically the same price. It's the one that will make the most sense if you are uncertain to a certain degree of what actually will suit you best, as compared to the 10th anniversary. As I said, in the 00 setting with the impedance adapter, this is the best way I can describe it is it's an energetic. It's a 10th anniversary with a couple of Red Bulls. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's not so much in the bass where you will see the differences, and that's actually quite impressive for me to be saying that, because we have to remember it's got two 6mm drivers in there. So for the bass to be very much equal between them, that's saying a lot for the 10th anniversary. But it's just then in the way that the mids, upper mids and treble come across, that over there they are perfect, mind you, perfect. You actually do end up feeling slightly more the ESTs there than what you do here, but the way that the mids, upper mids and treble come across on the DT900 with the impedance adapter compared to the 10th anniversary is pretty special. I'm not going to say that it just destroys the 10th anniversary, and the 10th anniversary has no reason for, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it's very fun, very engaging, very energetic, and the best way of ultimately categorizing the DTE900 is it's a 10th anniversary that's, like I said, had a few Red Bulls. It's got a very fun, very engaging presentation. It's loads of, the DTE900 is a lot of fun to listen to. This is not an IEM that I believe was meant to be audiophile correct. No, for that you have the Volt, which is probably more audiophile correct. No, it was meant, or even it's DTE500, and that's where you see the biggest differences. The DTE500 had a tuning orientation which was focused on being very audiophile correct, very, very balanced, very kind of neutralish. This has a tuning signature which was focused on being fun, big, in your face, fun, engaging, slams hard, great mids, great highs. Everything is very bold, everything is very big with the DTE900. And that's basically it, guys. A solid IEM from SOUNDRHYME. I have to say that initially I was a little bit kind of left with a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth because of the over energy that was present, especially in the 00 setting. But the moment I started playing around with it, I actually also played around with the tips, although I ended up going for the stock tips because those were ultimately the best ones. So the moment I started playing around with the tips, cables, trying this, trying that, I started discovering that there are certain things that you have to make sure that are ticked to make, to guarantee that the DTE900 gives you the best performance. As I mentioned earlier, make sure that it's got a nice deep insertion. The second thing that I would recommend is try a source which is a little bit on the warmer side or a little bit less bright, let's put it that way. That will help, especially because when you do see the graphs in a second, you will notice that that area there of around 4 to 7K is a little bit emphasized, and when you crank up the volume, that's the area that starts biting you. Okay, but other than those, like I said, other than that minor aspect there, the DTE900 is fantastic IEM. It's definitely worth a listen. So if you have the opportunity, make sure you listen to it. And if you are in the market for it, and don't have the opportunity to listen, or don't have the means to acquire a unit to listen to it, the best way that I can help you give it an idea of what it's about. It's like I said earlier, it's 10th anniversary, put on 10th anniversary with a little bit more slam, a little bit more engagement. Although the differences are not monumental, the differences exist, you can pick up on them, but it's not monumental differences. And that's it, guys. I mean, I'll show you the graphs now, and we'll wrap it up. Okay, you take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the SOUNDRHYME DTE900. As you can see, this is the first graph that I'm showing you is the DTE in its 00 setting, and it's quite obvious the few things that jump to mind. First of all, really big bass, really big bass. Like I said, got some bleed into the mids, but the bleed that's into the mids is not as bad as what the graph might show. And then you got to counteract that, you got this huge amount of energy here in the mids, upper mids, and treble. We're talking about a variation of 64 to roughly 78, so 14 dBs of gain there, and roughly 10 dBs on the bass side. Okay, so I guess you could say a very big V, although I would say maybe a little bit more, or some elements as well of maybe a QDC style tuning because of this peak being closer to 2K. But anyway, let's consider it for the sake of simplicity a V-shaped. Okay. The other setting that made sense using, and this is just basically, like I said, the intermediate settings are similar, is the 1-1 setting, and the 1-1 setting. Let me just align things here a little bit better. And the 1-1 setting, I've aligned it all to 500 Hertz. It's perfect. It's fine. As you can see, a little bit of a boost of bass boost, sorry, and it drops the energy there in the mids, upper mids by a little bit. So we go from being at 78, we come down to 74. So it drops at 4 dBs. And because of the balance that's struck as well with the bass is more equivalent. I mean, if you look there now, basically, the bass is just a little bit higher than the mids. It just sounds way more pleasurable, and that area there around 5, which is a little bit hot sometimes, especially in the 00 setting, especially in that setting, that area there around 5, 4, 5, 6 is a little bit hot. It becomes much more pleasant to listen to, and I didn't have any issues. I could crank up the volume fine. There was no issues. As I said, I then tried the impedance adapter, and I initially tried the impedance adapter with the 00 setting, and I got this graph. Again, normalized at 500 Hertz, and it drops again 4 dBs. Now, when you compare this, with the 1-1 setting, and let me just now put the 1-1 setting here, you can see that they are almost identical. But when you listen to it, especially higher up here in the frequency, the differences that you can pick up between the 25 ohm impedance adapter on the 00 switch setup versus the no impedance adapter but 1-1 setup, is that things seem to be just that extra smoother, more mellow. and that added extra, at least for me, is the perfect combination. I think it sounds absolutely fantastic with the 00 setting, 25 ohm impedance adapter. That's it. Okay, I also tried, as I mentioned, the impedance adapter with the 1-1 setting to see how that would work. And the impedance adapter with the 1-1 setting, let me just change the color so it's more visible. Make it red. If I have it in the 1-1 setting, which is what we have now, and I put the impedance adapter, it further drops it. Okay, it drops it another, so we go from 74 to 71, another 3 dBs basically we drop. And it can be interesting. This setup can be interesting, but you definitely notice that it's quite overpowering. It's quite prominent now, the thickness that we have on the bass, and this setting especially then does hinder things like detail retrieval and so on. Started suffering from that. So this is ultimately only a setup that I would use if you really are adverse to treble, let's put it that way, or upper mids, or those peaks there at 5, 6 can be problematic. Otherwise, what I would use is either the 1-1 setting, as you see here, or then the 0-0 setting with the impedance adapter. These two settings are what I would recommend. I'm just going to leave now the one with the impedance adapter, the 0-0 with the impedance adapter, and compare them very, very quickly, or very briefly, with the volt and the 10th anniversary. With the volt, there, let's normalize it at 500 hertz, normalized, and that's it. I think the graph speaks enough for all of us to understand that the volt is phenomenal. Everything is very balanced. Everything is within a very tight window, as you can see. Obviously, yes, not as much bass as the SOUNDRHYME. In the mids, if I have to look at the mids by themselves, they've got some elements of similarity, but you know, they ultimately are more focused on being detailed and audiophile correct and not overemphasized and coming across in a natural manner with regards not only to vocals but excuse me, also with regards to instruments and how they're portrayed. While on the SOUNDRHYME, everything is supposed to be fun and engaging. So yes, they've maintained a very high level of correctness, but it's supposed to be fun. So it's not even a fair comparison. They are polar opposites. As compared to the 10th anniversary, this is my 10th anniversary, and you can see why I said that it reminded me very much of the 10th anniversary, because the graph is got a lot of similarities. You've got that same style of bass. Although you have this big bass on the 10th anniversary, it also doesn't act in a detrimental way in terms of the vocals, how they come across, and the clarity that the mids should have. Nothing, in my opinion, is hindered by it, and the same thing happens on the DTE900. And then how the rest of it does, is portrayed in terms of mids, upper mids, and treble is perfect. The DTE900, I will say that although the EST execution is very, very good, somehow it just isn't as crystal clean as the EST execution on the 10th anniversary. I mean, if I have to, for example, let me just go back here. If I, for example, put the 0-0 setting without the impedance adapter, you can see that yes, you have loads more energy in the mids and upper mids and treble as well, but the quality of the ESTs, the quality of that treble on the 10th anniversary is just, it's spot on, it's perfect, it's clean, but you don't have none of that negative timbre aspects, let's put it that way. Okay, if I then use it with the impedance adapter, the same thing. It's much better now because the mids and the upper mids and the treble are more balanced with regards to the 10th anniversary, but you still notice the 10th anniversary, when you listen, it edges out the Panon in terms of the overall ultimate quality of those high highs and how that whole atmosphere past 10K or around 10K comes across. All right, so that's it, guys. I mean, like I said earlier, DTE900 is not an IEM that in any way is supposed to be anything like its sibling, the DTE500, which I've actually got it here. I can quickly just show you so you guys can have an idea. Okay, the DTE500, let me just change the color here to a more visible one. Okay, this is the DTE500. Let me just normalize it. I'm going to also normalize it to 500 hertz. There you go. Okay. There are instances, yes, that you would, if the song is not too bass heavy, that you will say, or you can see some similarities in the DTE500 and the DTE900 with the impedance adapter. There are some similarities, very much like on the case of the Panon. And they all, they all kind of hang around the same area and so on. The biggest difference, and that's what straight away jumps to you, and overall you understand then that the DT500 was tuned to be more correct audiophile wise, while the DT900 has that premise of being fun, is in the bass and in the mid bass. The amount of slam that you have on the 900 is simply unreal. It's a very, very nice engaging bass. It kind of reminds me very much of the bass that you have on the MS5 from HiDiz, which as well is crazy good bass. Another IEM that has a similar style of bass so that you guys can understand is the ISN H50. It's got this really impactful, really hits you hard, very clean, very detailed, but very high quality bass. And the DT500, the DT900 it's got that kind of bass, and the 500 is just no competition. It just can't keep up. And that's basically it, guys. So if you want a fun, very well priced tribrid, if you actually have take that into consideration, then the 900 is a very solid choice. The switches allow for a lot of versatility, and if you're still on top of that, do purchase the impedance adapter. You get added versatility, and if maybe you are a little bit sensitive to some of the higher frequencies like I am, it's definitely bound to control that and bring it down to levels which will not be of concern anymore. All right. Anyway, guys, that's basically it. As always, like and subscribe. Please don't forget, any questions you have, ask me, and like and subscribe. Come on, guys. I want to get to. I'm not going to say 10,000, but I want to get to 5K very, very, very soon, and see if I can come up with some nice things to give back to the community, giveaway of some sorts or something. So let's make it happen. All right, you take care now. Bye bye.